For centuries, scholars assumed the 30,000-verse epic known as the Yoga Vāsiṣṭha was a standard pillar of orthodox Hindu philosophy, but beneath lies a different structure. Within the Indian tradition, this text enjoys immense prestige. Generations of thinkers have celebrated its teachings alongside foundational works like the Ramayana and the Bhagavad Gita. Yet the version most widely known today is a modified adaptation. It was reorganized over hundreds of years to align with accepted religious dogma. Orthodox scribes took a radical philosophical treatise and dressed it in safe, acceptable language so it would fit within established doctrines. Unraveling this textual disguise required decades of historical detective work. The academic consensus shifted when scholars Walter Sly and Jürgen Hanader, operating through the Mokṣopāya project, began tracking down the text's earliest surviving forms. Their research led them to 10th-century birch bark manuscripts from Kashmir, recorded in the ancient Sharada script. Comparing these early documents with later versions revealed a clear timeline of redaction. Between the 11th and 14th centuries, as the text migrated out of Kashmir, scribes transcribed it into Devanagari and altered its contents. These oldest birch bark pages also preserved the work's original, self-referential name, the Mokṣopāya. The original Kashmiri philosophy found in the Mokṣopāya differed from standard Vedanta in its fundamental premises. It presented a view of reality that challenged the necessity of an objective world, leading later scribes to edit away passages that directly contradicted orthodox doctrine. To understand why the Mokṣopāya was seen as a threat, we have to look at the orthodox non-duality it was reacting against. In classical Advaita Vedānta, derived from the early Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, there is a definition of Brahman as the ultimate reality and Atman as the true self. Early thinkers like Gaudapada built on this by introducing Ajativada, the doctrine of non-origination. He argued that the pluralistic, fragmented world we experience never truly came into existence. The most famous formulation of this idea came later from Shankara. He called it Vivartavada, or illusory superimposition. Shankara explained this using a famous metaphor. Walking in the dark, human ignorance projects a false threat, a snake, onto a piece of rope. The catch is that while the snake is an illusion, the rope itself is real. An objective physical foundation supports the error. This means classical Advaita Vedanta always relies on an objective foundation. There must be a true substratum for the illusion to rest upon. The original Mokṣopāya rejects Shankara's rope and snake model. Instead of superimposition, the text introduces the concept of Atyantābhāva, or absolute non-existence. The Mokṣopāya drops the rope and snake comparison completely. Instead, it compares the physical world to the son of a barren woman. The logic here is absolute. The physical world is not a misinterpretation of something real. It is a logical impossibility. In the view of the Mokṣopāya, there is no rope to begin with. To account for our vivid human experience, the text argues that the entire universe is sankalpa, a mental projection playing out within the space of pure consciousness. This concept converges with other radical texts, like the Tripura Rahasya, which argue that Maya, the illusion of diversity, and pure consciousness are the same reality. The physical universe, therefore, has no existence as a material object. It only appears solid because the mind projects it through cognitive habit. Confronting this level of illusion requires a specific teaching method. The Mokṣopāya rejects standard scriptural authority, relying instead on tens of thousands of verses of original storytelling and philosophical narrative. These complex narratives act as a psychological tool. They are designed to break down the reader's vasana, the entrenched cognitive habits and latent impressions that lead the mind to project a physical world. The goal of breaking down these mental habits is a state called Jivan Mukti, or liberation while living. In practice, a person who has achieved Jivan Mukti continues to fulfill their daily duties and participate in worldly actions. They simply do so without internal attachment. True liberation in the Mokṣopāya is not about physically escaping the world. It is the practice of recognizing the absolute non-existence of the world while continuing to walk through it. As the text gained prestige across India, Advaita Vedanta scholars like Vidyaranya and Madhusudana sought to integrate its teachings into the orthodox fold. By quoting from abridged versions, they could utilize the text's authority while bypassing its more heterodox Kashmiri elements. This redaction process redefined the work for the rest of India. Over several centuries, rewritten manuscript bundles proliferated across the subcontinent, establishing Yoga Vāsiṣṭha as the standard title in the public consciousness. Today, when stripped of these later edits, the original Mokṣopāya appears as a distinct philosophical system that combines elements from various schools into a unique non-dual framework. This leaves a lingering historical question. If the Mokṣopāya isn't orthodox Advaita Vedānta, what exactly is it? It lacks standard Kashmir Shaivism terms like vimarsha, yet its arguments sound remarkably similar to Buddhist Yogacara philosophy. To identify the true origins of this text, we have to look closely at the volatile collision of Buddhism and Shaivism in medieval Kashmir, and that is exactly what we will explore in episode 27.